What's going on, everybody? It's Jack here. Welcome back to this week's video. In today's video, we're gonna be recreating some famous fast food items, starting off with the KFC bowl. So we have right here, we have our corn, we have some gravy mix, we have some instant potatoes, we have some chicken breast, we have some cheese, and then we have our seasonings. I'll run through all the ingredients real quick. So we need 1.5 pounds of our boneless, skinless chicken breast. We need 16 ounces of instant mashed potatoes. We need 2 packets or 48 grams of gravy mix. We also need 168 grams of our reduced fat shredded cheese. We need 1 can or 15.25 ounces of corn. And then we need our seasonings. So we have some olive oil spray to help the seasoning stick to our chicken, as well as to put in the actual pan. And then seasoning wise, we're gonna do 1/2 tablespoon of our garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and salt. Then we're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and then 1 tablespoon of our brown sugar substitute. The seasonings are very optional. You could change those up. You could also use a pre-mixed seasoning like this chicken rub from Famous Dave's. So the seasonings are up to you, but these are the absolute basics. Onion powder, garlic powder, paprika, pretty much goes on chicken on any recipe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get cooking. And quick shout out to the idea with this recipe. It actually came from my old roommate, Scott. Hopefully you're watching this, Scott. If not, I'll send it to you anyways. But he used to eat these instant mashed potatoes all the time, and I thought they were gross. And then I finally actually tried some. I was like, dang, these are actually pretty damn good, and they're super easy to make. And he used to do like mashed potatoes, gravy, and either steak or chicken, something like that. But in this case, we're gonna add some cheese and corn on top and make it a KFC bowl. So without further ado, let's get cooking. In my opinion, this is probably one of the easiest recipes to make. Besides cooking the chicken, everything else, you're just gonna read the instructions on the back of the label and then go ahead and follow that. So in this case, we need to add 4 cups of boiling water to a heat-resistant serving bowl. Immediately add entire pouch of potatoes. Mix thoroughly using a fork to moisten all potatoes and let stand for 1 minute. But since we have 2 packets, we're gonna need 8 cups of water, not 4. But other than that, it's pretty simple. We just need to boil some water. While the water for our mashed potatoes is boiling, we'll go ahead and make our gravy. This is the brown gravy mix just from Kroger, super cheap and simple. Once again, to make this, we just gotta follow the instructions on the back. It says empty a gravy mix into a small saucepan with a whisk, gradually stir in 1 cup of cold water. Cook over medium heat, stir frequently until gravy comes to a boil. Simmer 1 minute or until thickened. So what we have here, once again, 2 packets. So we have 2 cups of water. And you grab a whisk. We're gonna go ahead and whisk in the mixture and then go ahead and put it to some heat, cover it up and get it to boil. Now we got a little whisk. We'll go ahead and add in our gravy. Now our gravy has started to boil, so we can go ahead and put that on a low simmer, whisk it around a little bit, and go ahead and let that cook and thicken up for about 1 minute. Now our gravy's done. We let it cook for about a minute on a simmer, so we'll go ahead and set that to the side and let that cool down. In the meantime, what we're gonna do is actually bring our pot forward for mashed potatoes. It almost reached a boil, and I wanted to go ahead and let it kind of cool down real quick so I can finish the gravy. But now we can go ahead and put that on some heat, bring it up to medium. And as soon as that's boiling, what we're gonna do, we're actually gonna remove it from the heat and immediately dump in our mashed potato packets. Now our water is boiling, so we're gonna turn that off, remove from the heat, and add in our 2 mashed potato packets. Go ahead and mix that thoroughly with a fork. Actually, you know what will work better? Our whisk. And boom, just like that, we have our mashed potatoes. I saved you guys the time of showing you how to cut up chicken because it's super basic. I like to go with smaller chunks, maybe about 1 inch, 1/2 inch in diameter. Go ahead and spray olive oil all over that guy. Personally, I am aiming for about 30 calories or so. Just I know if I spray, I'm gonna save some calories versus actually dumping olive oil in. Then we have our seasoning mixture that I've gone over right here. The paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and brown sugar substitute. So go ahead and dump that into our chicken. And personally, I'm just gonna use my hands and I'm gonna take my watches off or else I'm gonna get chicken goop all over them. We'll go ahead, get in there and go ahead and thoroughly mix all that well together till all of our chicken is covered in that seasoning. All right, now we gotta cook it. Now we've got our pan over medium heat, hit that with some more nonstick. Boom. We'll go ahead and dump all our chicken on there, just like that. Go ahead, mix that up. The chicken should take about 6 to 7 minutes to go ahead and cook. So go ahead and mix it up so it doesn't get burnt on any one side. But yeah, go ahead, cook your chicken, and we'll put it all together. Now that we have everything cooked, the last part is gonna be the assembly of the meals. I'm gonna be making 6 servings. 2 I'm gonna eat now, or actually I'm gonna eat 1, my little brother's gonna eat another, and we're gonna put 4 into Tupperware to store for later. The big thing here is it doesn't need to be perfect. You don't actually need to use a scale. Just go ahead and portion out like what looks to be a 1/6 of your potatoes, gravy, chicken, and corn. The only thing I'm gonna measure out is the cheese, make it 28 grams per serving. We'll put that on the very top. The next step is to assemble all of our meals, and then I'll go over the macros for the entire pot as well as each individual serving. And just like that, we have our 6 servings. All that cooking has made me hungry, so I'm gonna eat this, but first thing I need to read the macros. For everything we made, the total for like the entire pot basically is 3,458 calories, 391 grams of carbs, 84 grams of fat, and 292 grams of protein. If you were to divide that into 6 servings as I did, it would be 574 calories per serving, 65 grams of carbs, 14 grams of fat, and 49 grams of protein. This is actually lower calorie and higher protein than the actual KFC Famous Bowl. The KFC Famous Bowl is 720 calories, only 26 grams of protein, 79 grams of carbs, and 34 grams of fat. So I'm gonna dig in. I'm actually starving like I mentioned, but super simple. Like I said, just follow the instructions and cook some chicken. And you have a delicious meal for the week. I'm gonna absolutely devour this. I'll see you guys at the next recipe. It is time for the second recipe of the video. As you can see here, we have a lot of ingredients. I'm actually gonna let you guys go ahead and try to guess what this meal is real quick. I'll go ahead and let you know we have potatoes, we have lettuce, we have a bunch of condiments, we've got ground beef, onions, cheese. All right, we are making a Big Mac bowl is what we're making. So a lot of these ingredients are going to be going toward the Big Mac sauce, but the primary ingredients are some ground beef, our onion, our lettuce, and our potatoes, which essentially are the substitute for the bun. So that could have been very, very bad. But for this Big Mac bowl recipe, we're gonna be making 4 to 5 servings. I'll go over the exact macros at the end, but we're gonna need 2 pounds of ground beef. This is 96.4 ground beef. We need half or a whole onion. It depends how much onions you like. I'm not the biggest fan of onions, so I'm gonna use half of an onion, but you could use a full one. We're gonna need 1,000 grams of russet potatoes. So we have a bunch of potatoes over here. We're gonna measure out 1,000 grams of. We need 6 cups of shredded lettuce. So this is 3 cups per pack. So we got 2 packs for 6 cups. We're gonna need 112 grams of cheese. I'm gonna use some reduced fat sharp cheddar. Then we also need our sauce. So our sauce ingredients, I'm gonna read those out real quick. We need half a cup of light mayo. We need 2 tablespoons of sweet relish. We need 2 tablespoons of mustard. We need 2 tablespoons of ketchup. We need 1 teaspoon of vinegar. We also need 1 teaspoon of a sweetener of your choosing. I actually don't have a sweetener. I thought I had some at home, so I didn't pick any up at the grocery store, but it turns out we don't actually have any. But if you want to throw a little bit of a sweetener, like a stevia packet in there, that'd be great. And then we need half a teaspoon of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and salt. So first thing we need to do, I'm gonna measure out my potatoes. That's gonna be the main thing. I'm gonna air fry all my potatoes. I'll probably have to do it in 2 batches. But if you do want to do it in an oven in 1 batch, you could, but I'm gonna do it in 2 batches in the air fryer. So we need to cut those up, cut up our onion, and then we pretty much need to cook our potatoes and our ground beef, and then everything else is just assembly. So first things first, let's cut up our potatoes. These potatoes end up being 1,026 grams, close enough in my opinion, and would lose a little bit of potatoes as we cut it off. Some of the edges won't be usable. So we're gonna go ahead, roll with these 5 potatoes, cut those up, and get those in the air fryer. If you've watched the channel before, you know this trick. I always throw tin foil down in the bottom of the air fryer. I love cooking, but I hate cleaning, so this makes cleaning the air fryer that much more efficient. So we're gonna have that tin foil down there. We're also gonna hit that with some nonstick. So as far as cooking our potatoes, what we're gonna need to do, a little bit of nonstick. We're gonna cut up our potatoes. Size is really up to you. I'll go ahead and throw some of these in there to show you guys the size I use. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that. So these are maybe about 1/2 inch squares. There are some different sizes in there, but as you can see, you can really cut your potatoes to whatever your preference is. I like to cut mine to maybe 1/2 inch squares or something like that. We're gonna cut up the rest of the potatoes. I think we're gonna do this, like I mentioned, in 2 batches. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the rest of these up. For the potatoes, the seasoning, I just put on a bunch of salt and pepper. Nothing too crazy. As you saw, I did add some more non-stick on top. Just give it that nice golden brown crisp. And then get some salt and pepper in there. I always give it a good shake before it goes in the air fryer. These can go in the air fryer at 400 degrees for about 12 to 14 minutes. Just depends on how done you want your potatoes. I will say, since this is a meal prep, we want them to get a little bit more crispy than normal, because when we reheat them in the microwave, we wanna make sure that they hold on to as much crisp as possible. So I'll probably be doing these 400 degrees for 14 minutes. And also make sure to shake probably 2 or 3 times throughout the cooking process so they cook evenly. Now we've got the rest of our potatoes cut up. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and dice our onion. I am an absolute amateur in the kitchen still, so I actually watched a video on how someone cut an onion the other day. So we're gonna try it, and since I only wanna use half an onion, we're gonna do it to a half. So go ahead and cut it. Shoot, what did he say? Well, I'm already forgetting half what they said on how to do it. All right, I forget, so we're kinda gonna wing it. We're actually gonna do this on a different cutting board. All right, so I think we're gonna like peel the shell. You do vertical, like vertical cuts first, and then you do them like parallel with the ground, and then you come back and do perpendicular to your initial horizontal cut. I don't know, we're just gonna wing this. Oh, there's a whole other layer on there. Look at that. Boom. Oh damn, okay. That actually worked pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised. So hopefully you guys can kind of see this if it zooms in. I mean, that's some decent dicing of an onion right there, if I do say so myself. I'll kind of show, hopefully I can maybe show you guys here, oh gosh, without like cutting myself. So I went like this first, so kind of, gosh, focus, like that, boom. And then I did a cut like this. I did like 1, 2, 3, going up the way down, and then I went like that, boom. So I went 1, 2, and then 3, like that, and that gave me that. So, hey, learn something new every day. As much as I like to cook, I am still a noob when it comes to technique and formalities, but I'm not too mad about that, so we're gonna cut the other half of our onion and get this on the stove. That looks good enough to me. Like I said, I'm not even a huge fan of onions, so these will probably be more than enough, if not too many for me personally. But let's head on over to the stove, we'll get these cooked up, and then add our ground beef. All right, the eyes are starting to water just a little bit. But I heard if you rub even more onion into your eyes, it's worse. So I'm gonna try to keep my hands from touching my eyes for now. But first thing we're gonna have is our pot over a medium-high heat. Now, over medium-high heat, hit that with some non-stick. Make sure that's nice and warm. And then what we're gonna be doing is pretty much just caramelizing our onions. So we're gonna put those in, let them cook down, become more transparent with a little bit of browning. And then we'll add our ground beef on top of that, mix that all up, and that'll kind of be our protein or beef for the meal. I'm making a mess. Make sure you're mixing your onions as they cook. It shouldn't take more than a couple minutes, so just keep an eye on them. As you can see, they're already kind of turning brown a little bit, so just gonna keep an eye on those, keep mixing those in, and then get our ground beef ready as well. The onions are looking nice and brown, as you can see right there. So we'll go ahead and turn the heat down just a touch to about a medium, and then add in our ground beef. And real quick, we'll add salt and pepper to taste now. We'll have plenty of seasonings later on with the sauce as well, but salt and pepper is always a good thing on some raw meat. When cooking. Now we'll go ahead, brown this meat, break it up, mix it up with the onions, and then our protein source is done. Our beef is just about done, so we'll go ahead and turn that off and let that just kind of cool on the side. And just like that, our first round of potatoes are done. Those are extra golden brown, just how I like them. So we'll go ahead and set these to the side and go ahead and throw our next batch of potatoes in the air fryer. While our last batch of potatoes is in the air fryer, I'll go ahead and make the Big Mac sauce. So I actually wrote out the grams of each ingredient that I listed out earlier in tablespoons and cups, because I think it's a little bit easier just to add things in and measure it in grams. So we'll need 130 grams of light mayo, 30 grams of sweet relish, that's the air fryer going off, 30 grams of yellow mustard, 30 grams of ketchup, about 34 grams, or 2 tablespoons. We need 5 grams of white vinegar. We need 5 grams of our sweetener. As I mentioned, I don't have that, but you should add some. It makes it a little bit sweeter. And then we need 3 grams of paprika, onion powder, garlic powder, and salt. Once we got all our sauce. We'll go ahead and whisk it up. Alrighty, now we have our sauce ready as well. Last thing we need to do is just wait for our last round of potatoes. And while we wait for the potatoes to finish up, I'll go ahead and explain quickly how I meal prep this if you want to meal prep it, or you can serve it as kind of one meal for the family or for your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant whatever it be. So the big thing here is when we want to reheat something, I personally don't love reheating the sauce itself or the lettuce. So what I like to do, I like to bag my lettuce. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but just for portion sizes, you could either keep a bag of lettuce completely closed and then also divide up the other one, or you can go ahead and divide it all up like I'm going to. So I know that each bag of lettuce will be divided up into 2 of my meal prep containers. So what I like to do, since I'm gonna be eating one now, I have one big bowl for my current meal, and then I have 3 containers for my, what I call reheatables. So what's gonna go in here is my potatoes, my beef and onion mix, as well as my cheese. Then what we'll go ahead and do, we're gonna put our sauce in these small containers that will go in the fridge, and then our lettuce in these baggies. Before anybody says, I know it's a little bit of a waste to move from one plastic container to another, but for simplicity's sake and convenience, if you wanna take it on the go with you, I do like to portion out individual sizes or sides for each meal prep. So I know, I'm sorry, the environment, I'll make sure I recycle and maybe I don't shower for a day to save some water. No, I'll probably still shower, but I'll figure something out. Actually, what we'll do, we'll just use one baggie, and then I'll go ahead and fold this up and seal it. So we're gonna save actually 2 baggies. As far as our sauce goes, we have about 2 tablespoons left in this bowl, and we got 2 tablespoons in each of our containers. So yeah, it's a pretty even distribution. Once again, I'm just eyeballing it. It's not gonna be perfect, but we'll go ahead and save this sauce for what we're gonna eat today, and then these 3 little containers for our meal prep. Our potatoes are all done and now in this bowl cooling off. Now it's time for assembly. As I mentioned, if you don't have a problem warming up your sauce and your lettuce, I personally think that microwaving lettuce kind of makes it a little gross, although you definitely could do it. You could put all these ingredients into one bowl. But as I mentioned before, I'm gonna go ahead and separate my lettuce and sauce, because the only things I wanna reheat in the microwave are gonna be our potatoes, our meat, and our cheese. But we'll go ahead and distribute this up. As I mentioned, I'm gonna be doing 4 servings. You could do 5 or 6, but 4 servings gets you closest to the actual calories of a Big Mac. So when I was writing this meal, I wanna make sure that my calories were close to that of a Big Mac. So the Big Mac is 563 calories, and once I distribute all this into 4 servings, it's gonna be about 570 calories. So that's pretty spot on. But you could also do 5 servings and just have it be a little less calories per serving. But I'm gonna go ahead and do 4. So I'm gonna eat this now, so I don't mind if the lettuce is mixed with the potatoes and beef. We also have our 3 containers. We've got 2 classic and then one of these black ones, just because it's what we have in the house. But next thing I'm gonna do, go ahead and distribute eyeball the potatoes, the beef, then we'll actually be measuring out our cheese. Each serving gets 28 grams for 1 serving of our cheese. Now you guys can see, hopefully a better angle of all the meal preps. And then we have the meal that we're eating right now. We have our potatoes, our cheese, our beef, our lettuce underneath. And we'll add in our Big Mac sauce. About 2 tablespoons left on here. So I'm gonna go ahead. Now I'm gonna go ahead and give this a quick taste test. Real quick before I do the taste test, I forgot to read you guys the calories. So for the entire thing, everything we made, all the food, it was 2,311 calories, 223 grams of carbs, 64 grams of fat, and 211 grams of protein. If you break it up like I did into 4 servings, it comes out to be 578 calories, 76 grams of carbs, 16 grams of fat, and 53 grams of protein. Also, I wanted to compare it to a Big Mac, like if you were to go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac. So the Big Mac at McDonald's is 563 calories, 45 grams of carbs, 30 grams of fat, and only 25 grams of protein. So I managed to double the protein of the Big Mac and keep the calories relatively the same. Obviously it's a very different form, but pretty similar if I do say so myself. And then if you were to break this up into 5 servings, it would be 462 calories, 45 grams of carbs, 13 grams of fat, and 42 grams of protein. I'm gonna go ahead and dig in. I'm just gonna give this a big old mix. All right, boom, bite 1. Yo, that's good. That's so good. That sauce, as I expected, carries the meal. But I definitely think that this is one of those meals that tastes amazing right now. But once you reheat it, it doesn't taste as good once it's kind of microwaved. The potatoes don't have as much crisp, and you kind of, have to reheat your meat. So I will say that if you're gonna make this meal, I highly recommend maybe eating it right away or just serving it to a group of people that can all eat it right away. You can definitely meal prep it like I did. I'll definitely be eating those meals the rest of the week, but ideally you eat it right away. It's one of those things that this meal probably doesn't taste as good once it's meal prepped and kind of saved for a couple days in the fridge versus other meals that probably taste exactly the same when they sit in the fridge. But that's just something that, yeah, make note of, that what you taste on the first day probably won't be the same as the second and third. But without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead, wrap up the video here. This is absolutely delicious, but we have to do one thing. We need to feed the beast. So we're gonna grab, oh, she's ready. We're gonna grab a little potato and feed the beast. All right, you guys can all see her? We have our potato in hand, and we're gonna see if she can catch. Ready? And, yeah, nice catch, doggy. Yeah, good girl. All right, and with that, we're gonna end the video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know of other fast food recipes you might want me to try out, make a little bit healthier meal prep. But yeah, other than that, we'll see you next time. Come here, Maisie, come here. Peace.